When she was 13 years old and said to be quite shy, this dancer followed the lead of her older sister Erica and tried out for the middle school drill team. She choreographed her own piece set to a George Michael piece. The closing move was a split, head held high. The evening after the audition, she received a call saying that she'd been named captain of the squad of 60. At 32, Misty Copeland is ballet's first breakthrough star in decades. The only African-American soloist with the American Ballet Theater, she's also featured on the video that we just saw on YouTube. She was chosen to perform with Prince, is to star in Swan Lake this year, and is a best-selling author for her memoir, Life in Motion, An Unlikely Ballerina. All of this accomplished by someone who was told she shouldn't pursue ballet. Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable Misty Copeland. Treat. Misty and Christopher, thank you for being here with us this evening. I think you can tell that you have an enthusiastic audience. An audience full of fans of your work, as well as emerging artists and dancers here with us this evening. At Restoration, we believe deeply in providing experiences for the next generation of leaders. So your participation tonight is a real commitment in joining us, and thank you for that. The complexity of what's happening across the planet. There's a lot going on, right? I teased Christopher that I would be giving him all the hard questions. But no, in many ways there is this call to action for us to gather together and really look for unique journeys in terms of how we're finding solutions and how we're sort of pushing past what have been decades and sometimes century-old challenges. The artist has this unique ability to really spotlight and shine a light on both what's happening universally as well as personally. So I'm going to start with a personal question. How do you see yourself and define yourself as an artist in the 21st century? I'll start with Misty, and then I'll pass it to Christopher.
Am I supposed to do this? Okay. It's interesting because the art form that I'm involved in is so much about remaining and staying true to such a traditional, historic thing. And I believe that because of who I am, because I'm African American, because of my experiences growing up, my interpretation of what I'm doing, even though I'm doing the steps as they're taught to me and as they're supposed to be done, they just come out in a different way. And I think that's what kind of defines the type of ballerina that I am today in the 21st century. Not that I'm changing anything, but it comes out in a different way, and it's I think it's attracting a different type of audience and a younger audience and a more diverse audience. So I'm a 21st century ballerina.
One of the things that when people talk about the future, sometimes they think of the future as something that has a distinct cut with the past. I think that for me as an artist, and definitely I've seen in Misty's work, it's more about seeing the continuity, like the real future. You know, if you ever see movies that have imagined the future from like the 1950s, and there's like moving sidewalks and jetpacks, as if somehow the past never existed. All the buildings are new. But what I see in Misty's work, and what I hope to do in my own work, is to draw a line that says I come from all the way back here, and then I see myself all the way in the future. And I think that that's really what the work of the artist is to connect that line, to connect that past to that future, to be that in-between person.
And And would you say that some people see it as a circle, actually, where the future is constantly connecting to the past when you talk about being a 21st century artist and seeing yourself? And I think that's what becomes so powerful with the work that you're doing, particularly the exquisite Firebird children's book that you created. Many of you saw that in the lobby, and the two of you collaborated on. I'm going to read an excerpt from that book. It says, "The beauty of dance is being a part of something that is all of you, from creation to performance. You hold the power of your instrument. That instrument comes in all shapes, sizes, and colors. That instrument is your body, soul, and heart. That instrument is you and me." I think that's just beautiful, just really exquisite and beautiful. Certainly the book allowed the two of you a chance to share your art, your instrument with us and the next generation. But take us a little bit behind the scenes of the collaboration. We've got illustrator, designer, artist, and we have dancer. What was that like?
Horrible. The worst. It was, I mean, this is the first time we've seen each other since the book came out.
Next question.
I want to talk about, when was that? Not last night, but the night before.
Oh, 2 nights
Saturday,
ago.
2 nights ago.
Yeah.
And just talking about, the lineage and the line, and then it really just being a circle, that this cycle of history. Christopher and I both went and saw Carmen de Lavalade perform at 81.
She's 83.
83 years old, and we both were there, just like we, not just me, we are a part of this history. And she was sharing and telling the stories of where she came from, all of the dancers in her family and on her path, and I feel like I'm kind of a part of that, and she's like passing the torch to me, and that was kind of the idea with Firebird, that we wanted to kind of just tell the stories of African American women in ballet, and kind of passing on that knowledge and identity and I don't know.
So you talk about a woman like Carmen de Lavalade, or a woman like Raven Wilkinson, who is our friend, who is about 5'9" and has all the story in the world. And you realize that there is this continuity, and to have this discussion amongst artists. When I talk to Raven, there's a way in which I'm talking to her as a grandmotherly figure, and I'm talking to her as a cool older woman, but the main way in which we're communicating is we're talking as artists. And I think that was a dialogue that we got to share in making the book together, is the idea of we are artists, we share that. And that's a gift to be able to share that. And it's also a gift to be able to share it with the artists in the audience, the artists that you guys are. We were excited for that kind of exchange. And as we go around and as we do talk to other people about the book, we keep meeting all these little tiny artists and older artists and just amazing people who can relate on the idea of we make things and we invest our hearts into what we make, and that's a powerful thing in and of itself.
And that's really interesting, because when someone sees a children's book, it seems like it could be more simple than an adult book to write. But I've talked to many children's authors, and they have said time and time again how difficult it is to get all of those ideas into fewer words, and then it has to be represented in this, an animation visual. So there has to be this perfect marriage between what you draw and what you're trying to say to really convey something, I think, meaningful. You have fewer words to work with.
And the topic we chose is I think, pretty deep.
Yeah,
For a children's book. I mean, just Raven Wilkinson being the first African-American ballerina to dance in a major ballet company with the Ballet Russe in the 1950s, and my relationship with her and her kind of guiding me as a mentor to me, and then in the book, me being in Raven's shoes and guiding that young dancer, the next generation. So I think it was a pretty heavy subject, and yet it's for children, and you created it's so simple, but yet so strong and direct.
And there's a core to it, and the core is something that I've seen that it exists. It exists like over lunch. I feel at some point I want to have Raven on the stage with us, because Raven, again, she's like 76 now. So
80?
She just turned 80. We hang out with a lot of real cool, hip young people, 83, 80. But at one point, someone said something in one of Misty's many glowing reviews. Somebody said something just a little off, like it would have been nice if her hands were pointed, because ballet is the most specific thing. If her hands were pointed just that way, Raven said, "I will cut that person." Imagine a little 80-year-old lady saying, "I will cut that person." Your hands were nothing like that. Distinguished, beautiful, poised dancer would cut a reviewer.
All right. Set us straight. You two are involved in very visceral art forms. I mean, they're really tactile. The book has an incredible poetry and an incredible rhythm to it that comes from years and years, I would say, of just kind of moving through that kind of those creative forms. Would you say that's right? It just shines through. It's just beautiful.
I think that even in the background of all of the images, I've heard you say it, but it's just like these layers and layers of colors and the squares and everything, and I think that kind of sums it all up, that's just what it is to be an artist. It's just these layers and layers of just learning and our history and us, and there's so much texture and so much studying that goes into it and practice, and that's just it's the process, I think, that makes the art, not kind of creating something that's empty and just putting it out there, but it's making all those layers into something beautiful. And I think that just shows so much in the imagery in the book. Which
also comes so much from, I have a question. I don't know a lot of, you're like my main ballerina friend. And when you talk about the dance, you talk about this kind of rootedness in history and all the layers that go into it. You're really clear and cogent, and you speak so well about it, you write so well about it. Is that typical of ballet people? And there's people that you can tell me later. No, but is that, I don't want to offend any ballet people, but this sense of understanding of your place in history, I think that is kind of unique to you in some special way.
I think because I'm African American, and I've had to really dig deep in learning the history of us in ballet, it's made me appreciate it more, because that's how I found acceptance within myself to be a part of the ballet world, was knowing there were others that came before me and others with me, even though I couldn't see them all the time. But I have to say, as a ballerina, it's just so much a part of what we do. We have such respect for those who came before us. That's how we learn the technique. It's carried on from person to person over hundreds of years, and they literally come in and set ballets because they were taught by the actual choreographer. It's just passed down knowledge, and so I think as ballerinas, we have this kind of innate respect for our elders and for the history of ballet. Questions.
I love that question. I would add to that, I do think that, if I may, that you're a very unique voice in ballet, beyond being an African American woman. You're a woman who has found voice in a very voiceless field. We see so much movement and so much symbolism, but you are a woman who has claimed voice, and I think it makes you this dynamic figure for women, for African Americans, for artists, because you have claimed your voice and you own it so beautifully. So. Johnson. I know a friend of yours and a mentor, a director, artistic director of the Dance Theater of Harlem. She's been quoted as saying, there are people who define ballet in a very specific and historic sense. And tell me how your personal experiences line up to that statement, Misty. There are some real expectations and there's some real gatekeepers in terms of what the ballet should be.
Okay. I just feel like I just stay true to myself every single day. And I do this because I absolutely love it. I also feel like at this point, I'm speaking for so many people that didn't have an opportunity to have a voice or wouldn't have been able to dance if they had a voice. I danced for Virginia Johnson, for Raven Wilkinson, for Carmen de la Plade, and I just understand the importance of it, but I wouldn't do it if I didn't absolutely love it and want to kind of carry all those people with me when I dance and when I speak.
Absolutely. In many ways, the book, I'm gonna segue to the Life in Motion, An Unlikely Ballerina, which is just a beautiful, it was one of those books that you started and before you know it, it's 2 a.m. in the morning and you're still reading it. It's captivating and it's honest and it's just beautifully transparent. I think what I love most is your candor about what it means to be a young woman, just trying to find herself, and dance becomes this incredible conduit. And in many ways, not only have you become, if I may, a global phenomenon. I mean, there's Armorel, there's She Danced with Prince. I mean, there's this incredible sort of owning womanhood and black womanhood. And one writer wrote that Misty is changing the world's view of what it means to be a world-class ballerina. And so your book tells the story of perseverance and struggle. And there are seven words out of the whole book that I just can't lose. They're haunting. They're simply haunting. When she writes in chapter 1, this is for the little brown girls. It's an incredible power in those 7 words. If I can have you unpack just those 7 words for us a little bit.
It's very specific when you say this is for the little brown girls. But I think that in those words, it's for all of those people that have struggled with fitting in and being told no, that they couldn't do something, that this was for them. And I've been that person. I've been that little brown girl. I mentor so many of them, and I just want to share with them my journey and perseverance, and kind of be that person for them, for all of those that have just struggled with their identity and accepting who they are and being accepted.
And if I can ask you to read a very short excerpt from your book, I'm going to find here for you. We're just going to hear a little bit from Life in Motion.
Outside the largest crowd I have ever seen waits. Prominent members of the African American community and trailblazers in the world of dance who have seldom received their due are here tonight. Arthur Mitchell, Deborah Lee, Star Jones, Nelson George. But I know I will also dance for those who aren't here, who have never seen a ballet, who pass the Metropolitan Opera House but cannot imagine what goes on inside. They may be poor like I have been, insecure like I have been, misunderstood like I have been. I will be dancing for them too, especially for them. This is for the little brown girls. I stand in the furthest upstage wing when the curtain rises. There are a flock of firebirds who enter the stage first after Yvonne the Prince. I can feel the anticipation rolling off the crowd as they pose and preen. They expect me to be among them. I take a deep breath. The music starts, and with it comes the cheers, a great roar of love from the audience. I realize in that moment that it doesn't matter what I do on the stage tonight. They are all here for me, with me, here for who I am and what tonight represents. I run onto the stage and feel myself transform. As I approach center, my flock parts, leaving me to stand alone. There's a brief second of silence before the audience erupts into applause once more, clapping so loudly I can barely hear the music. And so it begins.
And so it begins. For anyone who passed by the Metropolitan Opera House and saw an extraordinary Firebird, misty and red flames just coming out, it was just an extraordinary moment, I think, for all of us to walk by that and see your Firebird. In the book, you share the incredible tenacity it took to pull off that performance. You asked yourself, how can I dance if I can barely walk? Tell us what was going on in that moment.
It was, I think, important with the reach of this book to so many people that maybe didn't know a lot about ballet, to share what so many dancers experience. I'm not the first person to go on stage and perform injured or have surgery, but I think it was so important for me to really share all that dancers give of themselves, and even in those moments where you're just like, I have to do it because sometimes it's bigger than yourself. And that's what I felt in that moment. I was 29 years old, given the chance to do one of the biggest principal role I'd ever been given. And it's rare at that late age and to be that old and get your first opportunity. I thought if I don't show all that I can become in carrying an entire ballet on my shoulders, that I would never be given the opportunity again, and I would never be a principal dancer with American Ballet Theater. So when I realized I was severely injured, I didn't know at the time that I had 6 stress fractures in my shin, but I knew that it hurt to walk. I knew that I had to get through that one performance in New York for all of those little brown girls, for all of those big brown girls that were in the audience that, that wanted to be on that stage at some point and just never thought they could. And for them to be able to see themselves through me, I understood that it was so much bigger than, just me being selfish and saying, I'm just going to do this performance. But I knew that it meant so much more, and now I'm doing Swan Lake and Juliet, and I think it was because I did that performance.
This really brings us back sort of full circle to the beginning when we talk about the continuum. It's not just about stepping out on stage and going through the steps, and it's not just about putting paint to paper or pencil to paper or pen to paper, but there is a deeper sensibility, there's a deeper calling for the artist on this planet. I'm going to put ellipsis, ... and let each of you sort of continue that thought, that idea. I'll start with Christopher. That deeper meaning for the artist on this planet.
That's heavy. I'll tell you this much. In June, when Misty's doing Swan Lake at ABT, which I hope to, I'm going to be there, right? And there's this moment that when you go to see a fellow artist doing something, when you realize that what Misty's talking about is this connection to the audience, we are one in this moment, that we've all come to participate in this ritual of belonging, in this ritual of watching a story unfold. You can make as many books as you want, but without an audience, they don't really exist. And to have that oneness, to have that one moment of kind of real deep sharing, There's no feeling like it on either side. There's no feeling like having a book in the world that speaks to so many people. The most amazing thing of hanging out with Misty is how many people cry around her, and how often she cries with them. But there's that connection, and I think that connection is really what it's about. That's where the circle lives, is in that one connection from a moment where you've put something on paper or you've been on the stage, and you realize that thing has touched someone. And to participate in that on either side, that's what I've got. That's what I've got going for me in June. I know that's the moment that I will hold on to in that month. So, yeah.
Beautiful. We have several aspiring young dancers in the audience, many who are members of our Restoration Dance Theater Company. And I know a few of them have questions for you. They're going to just move up to this space here. But I'm going to ask one question of you as they move up to this space. If all of the young artists in our audience are to take away one little capsule, one thing that you want them to walk away with, what would that be? One little nugget that they fall asleep thinking about tonight.
You are beautiful and can do anything. Tell myself that.
I'm going to add something a little to that, because Misty's so nice, but she will outwork everyone and everybody everywhere. And then that's the other side. It's like you get beautiful and do everything, and you can do anything, especially if you work 14 times harder than everybody else, which is the truth.
Questions? All right, ladies, come down, please. Oh, okay. All right, let's go. Question.
Okay. Hi, Misty. Okay, sorry. So right now I'm in 3 different dance schools, and I'm juggling high school and dance. And sometimes I'm feeling it's hard juggling all of it. And sometimes I'm just like, school, why is this so important? Like, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do homework? I should be rehearsing. Like, can you give me some advice on how I should weigh the school and dance? And I have an issue with lateness.
I think as a professional, no matter what career you choose, you cannot be late, girl. I think at your age, for me, my mother made it very clear that education was important, because who knows what can happen to your body. And I needed something to fall back on if something happened or I didn't get into a company. So she made sure that I finished high school, graduated, and then I was on my way to New York. But it's definitely knowing what your priorities are and sacrificing, if that means, school is going to be there. That's what's going to keep you up at night doing your homework. But you have to sacrifice if that's, hanging out with friends so that you can be in your ballet class, so you can be rested, so you can get your schoolwork done and dance. But it's possible. I did it.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Misty, how are you? My question to you is, say for example, an event took place that caused you to stop dancing. My question is, what would you do next if you could not dance anymore? It's a hard one.
Yeah, I would probably take a couple of months to just cry, and then I'd be involved in some way. I'd continue to mentor dancers. I would try and teach still because you don't really need your body to teach. If I could still speak, whatever that incident. But I know that I was meant to be a part of the dance world, and I can never see myself walking away from it. So I would definitely be giving back in some way. Thank you so much.
Hi, Misty. In reading your book, like you had like a rocky childhood, and would you say that that made you like the resilient person you are today? Like, do you believe you would still be the same dancer and person you are if you had a different experience?
I think it definitely helped shape the way I approach and appreciate my art form. I think that it gave me a tough skin that a lot of children that are maybe sheltered simply for the fact that they're in ballet class all day, every day. They don't see anything else. And then they, become an adult at 16, which is when you usually go off and become a professional. And there's not much life experience to draw from when you're trying to become an artist. And I think I had a slight advantage in that way, that I had seen a lot and experienced a lot from a young age. So it definitely helped to shape who I am.
Thank you.
Hi, Misty. I'm Alexis, and I started dancing at Alvin Ailey, and now I dance at my school, LaGuardia, and I also dance here. And I went to the doctor a month ago, and they told me that I have dysplasia. So I've been trying to deal with that. So I want to know, if you've been through anything like that where you can't dance for around 3 months, and how you dealt with it.
Yeah, I've experienced it many times, and with my surgery that I had over 2 years ago now, I was out for a year, and I made sure that I was still dancing in my mind and my heart and my soul, because that's what kept me sane. I was doing everything that I could, with what I could control. And I kept people around me that were there to push me on those days when I didn't want to get out of bed and stretch if that's all I could do. But I think it's important to keep a good support system around you during this time.
Thank you.
Hi, Misty. My name is Hadia, and my question is, if you couldn't choose another genre of dance to study in, what would it be?
God, that is really hard. I need to be in point shoes. Maybe contemporary ballet. That's not very far off from ballet, but contemporary dance.
Thank you.
Hi, Misty. My name's Naomi. While reading your book, I read that you had maybe 6 injuries in 2012, I think. And I'm currently going through an ankle injury, as well as Alexis has an injury. And I just find that it's really hard sitting out and watching all my fellow dancers dance. And I just wanted to know if you had any tips or ideas on things that I could do to, uplift myself and not be so depressed about not dancing for a long time.
Well, you will dance again, so you can tell yourself that. And take advantage of this time. It's so useful to sit back and watch other dancers. You can learn so much from that. And I know it's hard, you're sitting there, I guess, imagining what, yourself up there. But you can look at someone and take qualities from them. Say, oh, that's something I want to do. Okay, I'm going to put that in my pocket. That's a choice I wouldn't make. And I think it just makes you a better dancer. When I started, I don't teach a lot, but when I started teaching and watching other dancers and articulating what it was I wanted them to do, I feel like I became a better dancer. So I think it could be very useful this time of being down.
Thank you.
Hi, Misty. My name is Katura. When I first started dance, I felt like I was just going through the motions, go to dance class, go home, come home. But as I've gotten older, it's I've got more of a passion for dance,
So, like, was there ever a time where you felt like you were just going through the motions, and then, like, when did you feel like you really had a passion for dance and ballet, and that this is something you really wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've always been drawn to movement and always loved dancing. So I didn't have that experience in the beginning of my training, but I definitely experienced it as a young adult when I was trying to figure out who I was in American Ballet Theater as the only African-American woman in a company of 80 dancers. And there were days where I just felt like, why am I doing this? And I was just going through the motions because I had to do it. It was my job. And I had to just remind myself of, first of all, how fortunate I was to be dancing with my dream company. And the percentage of dancers that train their whole lives and make it to that place is so small. And that I shouldn't let other people's ideas of what a ballerina should be or what I should be deter me from loving what I do. And so I had to I think I have to constantly remind myself of why I do what I do. Because when you take ballet class every day and you're dancing every day, it's easy to kind of get lost and just go through the motions. But remind yourself every now and then why you do it.
Thank you. Hi, Misty. My name's Deirdre. My question is, you've taught yourself gymnastics and you've studied dance. Which discipline did you find to be more difficult, and which did you find to be more of a release in emotion?
Well, I don't know if I would say I taught myself gymnastics. I mean, before I danced, I taught myself how to do the splits and back walkovers and cartwheels, and I pretended I was, at the Olympics and stuff. But I didn't really, do gymnastics, so I can't really, in a fair way, compare it. With that said, ballet is the hardest thing that exists in this world, I think. So, ballet is definitely, it uses every single part of your being and emotion, and it's just such a full body experience.
Thank you.
My name is Tiana, and I was wondering how you're able to continue knowing everything is fine with life and the obstacles you've been through.
One day at a time. Even today, where I'm at today, it's just something that I have to approach each day. Like, this is another opportunity to start fresh and be better, and that's just kind of how I approach my life. I can't get caught up in just the drama of the bigger picture sometimes, or what other people are saying about you, or just kind of one step at a time and breathe.
Thank you.
Hi, Misty.
Hi.
My name is Sequoia again. So I'm a junior now, and in the midst of all these college decisions, and I know that I want to be a dancer, but at the same time, there's always people like, you want to dance? It's such a hard career to make. That's so hard. It's such a hard field to succeed in. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I have to have something on the back burner to rely on when I get older, or if dancing doesn't work out. So how would you suggest just dealing with that and dealing with continuing to push on as a dancer?
I mean, I think that you have to make the decision at some point soon, whether or not you're going to go off and audition places. If that doesn't work out, or if you're just not that passionate about it, you can go to an incredible performing arts college and still have a career in dance and go to school. But there are ways of doing it all. Even in major ballet companies, they offer discounted college courses that you can do at the same time, on your free time. Not very much of it, but they do offer that type of thing. So I think it's possible to do it all, but you have to make the decision for yourself which direction you're going to go.
Thank you.
My name is Tiana, and my question to you is, do you think that dance kind of disciplines someone that would want to join the Army? Like, does it give you that discipline?
Yes, I think so. I've never been in the Army, but I think that it gives you tools to do so much more in life than just dance. It teaches you to respect yourself, respect others. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you empathy, sympathy. I just think that it makes us better people, and I definitely think that it would train you well. Ballet would prepare you for being in the Army.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Aziza. My question is not really an advice question, it's a question to you. And I would like to know, since you're so young and like your life is like just beginning or whatever, I want to know where you see yourself in the future, like if you have any other interests besides dance, or do you see yourself doing anything else besides dance?
Well, I'm already doing a lot besides dance. I'd like
I don't know if you noticed, she got a book out.
I love cooking. I would love to learn to really learn. I mean, I cook a lot, but I would learn to like really, do some fancy stuff. I want to have a family. I want to get married. I want to travel the world. I mean, I already do, but I do it for fun. I don't know. I want to do everything. But still dance too, even when I'm 83.
Hi, I'm Mia and I dance with Restoration. I just want to ask a question saying, when you feel discouraged, what do you do to make yourself feel encouraged?
When I feel discouraged, what do I do to make myself feel encouraged? That's what you asked. I go to my friends because they're there to kind of push me when I'm feeling down, or the people that mentor me or that I look up to. I think it's important to have those people in your life because we just cannot do it on our own. I've been that girl that's like, I can do this on my own. I don't need any help. And it's just not possible because you're going to have those days when you feel discouraged. So it's important to have support, a support system.
Ladies, for these wonderful, wonderful questions, and thank you, Misty, for the generosity. I'm going to end tonight's conversation because we still have, I think, a few more books to sign outside, with a quote from Firebird, Misty and Christopher's Firebird. My hopes are that people will feel empowered to be whatever they want to be, to feel that they have no limits, just endless dreams that are reachable. No matter what the dream is, you have the power to make it come true with hard work and dedication, despite what you look like or struggle with. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking these two extraordinary